My name is Brent Wheeler from McLaren Flint in Michigan and Vice President of Operations. All along we had looked at buying new smart pumps. We kind of put off the purchase as long as possible because we did not have the opposite side of that, which was a smart EMR. But we knew we had to make that transition. In that time frame, we have about 900 pumps, old Alaris pumps. There's very traditional issues that were happening with the pumps as far as nurses hoarding them, hiding them, can't find them, dirty. So in order for us to buy the pumps, we had done a couple different studies looking at our utilization rates of the 900 pumps that we did have, came up with about a 30% utilization rates. And then right before we started to buy, we also did a utilization study internal with about 20 of us that kind of scattered ourselves throughout the hospital, looked at all the pumps, looked at how many were deployed and were they actually being actively used on a patient. And we also came up with about a 30% usage rate. And that's what we used to trigger the possible purchase of RTLS as part of a capital expense reduction. So we targeted 600, which we thought would give us enough, plus a buffer for things that went out for repair, not being able to find one or two if that came up, and so that's why we chose the 600 number. We knew having RTLS on it, we'd be able to find the pumps easier, both from a biomedical perspective on the repairs and or PMs, and also just for the average person can find the pump very readily without having to hoard them. So in order to get the buy-in, I did take it to multiple different people. Obviously the finance department, when they thought they could save close to $1 million versus buying 1,000 pumps, they were all behind it without a question. The CEO I've known and worked for about 20 years, so he trusted the direction that we were going. As you would well expect, the clinical areas basically said, heck no. Thought we were crazy, knew 900 wasn't enough, how in the world could we do only 600? Because, you know, of my position, I was over all the areas that would support the distribution, biomed, etc., is that my promise to them would be that they would never have to look for them, that we would have them for them on their floor, ready to use if we followed just a few simple rules. So we did. We bought 600 and we maintained that. Pumps get put on patients primarily through three main areas for us, at least. It's through surgery, through the ED, and through our heart and vascular centers. They would obviously have a higher PAR level first thing in the morning to put on patients. The patients would eventually migrate up to the floors. Patients get discharged from the floors. The pumps end up in the supply rooms where they get cleaned, and then on third shift every night they get redistributed back to the three original areas. We have a central area on each floor that we've asked nursing to make sure that any unused pump gets put back in. And then we have a central area down in the basement where our transportation uses to gather them and then redistribute them a little bit later on. After paying for Versus technology, all the infrastructure cabling, we decided to do a hardwired cabling, IR and RF, and we still saved very close to $1 million from the original 1,000 plus purchase request on the smart pumps. We would like to take our utilization rate, and we have, from the 30 to 40% to really about 80%. When the patient goes upstairs, they get taken off, that pump doesn't really belong to the 12th floor. That pump belongs back to the PAR level and back to the patient. So we're constantly equalizing that. Each area has the sufficient amount of pumps that they need, and then corporate facilities was involved in this time versus 5 or 6 years ago. They were really playing a little bit of backseat, allowing us to do what we needed to do, but we wanted them to be involved for future corporate facilities, so for future standardization for our other hospitals. And in fact, I know we're talking about it in a couple of our other subsidiaries right now as we're building either new wings or new hospitals, so they'll be implementing the technology. We have about 2/3 of our facility was censored, about 1 million square feet. Most of our patients are actually in about 2/3 of the facility, with the north building being primarily administrative and support space. I have about 1,400 sensors throughout, all hardwired. Majority of them are IR, and a few of them just for lost friends, RF. We've asked Versus and B. Braun to create the interface between the two of them so we can actually know the status of that pump, so we know if it's running or not. In the beginning, we talked about our one request to nursing is to please make sure any unused pump are put back in a supply room. That doesn't always happen, unfortunately, and it's very tough for our transportation department to really kind of peek their nose into a patient room and ask, if the pump's running or try and visualize the pump's running. So we really don't want to interfere with their privacy on that, versus just telling them we know there's a pump in here that we need to get, which would be much better. So we didn't necessarily buy it for pumps. I mean, we did, but it was really for me to get the infrastructure that I need to take it into the next steps, which is patient flow, patient care, staff assistance, and call out integration. So we'd like to really take it to the level that a Memorial, Miramar has, and get to that point. So that's where we really see what we really want for process improvement, patient flow, etc.